Did you know that in the English dub of Dragon Ball Z, Goku makes a reference to the comedian and actor Jim Carrey? No, I'm not lying, and yes, I will be showing you the clip where he does this a little later in the video. But before I show you that clip, I just want to point out how this is a perfect example of something that extremely annoys me. What I'm talking about is when an English dub of an anime or game turns a moment that should be timeless into something that is tied to a very specific point in time. By doing this, they're putting a date on that dub, and more often than not, this ends up being detrimental to that dub. So today I'm going to share with you a few examples of changes in the English dubs of Dragon Ball Z that make those dubs feel extremely dated. And then after that, we're going to take a look at a couple other examples from outside of Dragon Ball that are more recent. So let's get into it. There's many changes in the Dragon Ball Z dubs that make those dubs feel very dated.
Mondo cool. That's right, boys. Mondo cool.
Yes, there's Mondo cool, but we're not going to focus on that. What I want to focus on today is the scene where Goku first meets King Kai. As you probably remember, when Goku first meets King Kai, Goku asks him to train him. However, King Kai doesn't just say yes, he says, "Sure, I'll train you, but you have to make me laugh first." In the original Japanese version of the Dragon Ball Z anime, what happens here is Goku comes up with 3 different puns. He says these puns to King Kai laughs, so King Kai ends up agreeing to train Goku. Now, I'm not going to do a whole detailed breakdown on every single one of these puns. If you want that, though, you're in luck because I already did a video about that, so I'll include a link to that video in the description. For the purposes of this video, though, all you really need to know is that these are timeless jokes. They worked back when this episode of Dragon Ball Z aired in Japan, and they still work today. However, the same can't really be said for the Ocean dub. You see, in the original Japanese, there's a moment where Goku repeats the first pun that he says to King Kai. However, in the Ocean dub, he says this.
Somebody stop me!
And that is the reference to Jim Carrey that I mentioned earlier.
Somebody stop me!
In case you're not aware, "Somebody Stop Me" is probably the most famous line from the 1994 movie The Mask, starring Jim Carrey. The Mask was a massive success, and it's one of the movies that catapulted Jim Carrey into stardom. And after that movie came out, well, "Somebody Stop Me" was all over the place. Regular people were going around quoting this line constantly, and I'm sure it was popping up on TV shows and even other movies. Now, this version of Dragon Ball Z, often referred to as the Ocean dub or the Ocean Group dub, began airing on TV in the US in 1996, a little over 2 years after the release of The Mask. Which means that pretty much anybody who watched this episode on TV when it first aired in the US would have understood this reference. However, that's definitely not the case these days. I'm pretty sure that if you were to show this to somebody born in the year 2000 or later, there's a pretty decent chance that they wouldn't get this reference. And if that's the case, well, there's also a pretty good chance that they wouldn't even get what's funny about this line. And as I mentioned earlier, in the original Japanese, Goku doesn't say anything like this. What he says here is "futon ga futonda." Literally what this means is the futon blew away. Futon refers to those Japanese mattresses that you lay out on the floor to sleep, and futonda is the past tense of the verb futobu, which means to blow away or to fly away. And this is a pun because futon can be heard twice, futon ga futonda, even though they mean 2 totally different things. And as I pointed out earlier, this is a timeless joke. It's an absolute classic. Kids back in the 80s knew this joke, and kids today know this joke. This kind of thing bothers me to no end because when you're watching the scene, you're not supposed to be thinking about Jim Carrey in a movie from 1994. You're just supposed to be focusing on the fact that Goku is coming up with these stupid puns, and King Kai thinks these stupid puns are the funniest thing ever. But I'm going to stop my rant right there because there's still a whole lot more to go over, and actually, things get even worse. Check out what Goku says immediately after he says, "Somebody stop me."
King Kai, looks like you've fallen and can't get up.
That line is a reference to a commercial from 1987 for a medical alert device. In that commercial, an older woman falls down, she uses the medical alert device to call for help, and she says that line.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
We're sending help immediately, Mrs. Fletcher.
See? Protect yourself with Life Call and you're never alone.
This line was basically a meme before the internet. It was absurdly popular. Again, just like Somebody Stop Me, people were quoting it, it was on TV, and I'm sure it was in a bunch of movies as well. So even in 1996 or 1997, when this episode of Dragon Ball Z was airing in the US, there would have been a lot of people who would have gotten this reference. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that this was hilarious, because I'm pretty sure that by 96 or 97, people had already kind of moved on from that line. Yeah, people still remembered it, but it wasn't fresh. It wasn't all that funny anymore. But some of you might be thinking, oh, that's the Ocean dub. That's the version that's full of changes. The Funimation redub, now that one is much better. That one probably doesn't have these ridiculous changes that make the dub feel like it's something written in 1987. And to that I say, yeah, you're right. The Funimation redub did get rid of the "I've fallen and I can't get up" line, but they didn't get rid of "Somebody stop me."
Somebody stop me!
This is extremely unfortunate because the Funimation redub is the most widely available English dub of Dragon Ball Z. So even today, if somebody decides that they want to watch the English dub of Dragon Ball Z, they're probably gonna end up watching this version. But it's okay because we have the English dub of Dragon Ball Z Kai. In case you're not aware, that version is very faithful to the source material. So yeah, Somebody Stop Me and I've Fallen and I Can't Get Up are not in that version. The Dragon Ball Z Kai English dub actually includes puns in this version. So in that regard, this version is just like the Japanese version in that it's timeless. So then that's it, right? There's nothing wrong with the Kai dub. It's perfect and we can just move on. No. Look, I like the Kai dub. I think they did a very good job with it. Overall, it's very accurate to the source material. And like I said, there aren't any problems with the puns. But they did make a really weird choice here. Check out this moment when King Kai pretends to pick up a phone. Now, if you grew up in the age before smartphones, you recognize that little melody as the ringtone of Nokia cell phones. When cell phones first started to break into the mainstream in the latter part of the 90s into the 2000s, the most popular company putting out cell phones at the time was Nokia.
It's a total brick nugget. What I like is it shows the controls evolve into the 3310, which is like the Nokia so many people recognize.
And the default ringtone on their cell phones was this. At the time, you would hear that ringtone all over the place, including on TV and even movies. But then in 2008, the iPhone was released, smartphones became the new norm, and Nokia cell phones became a relic of a very specific point in time. The English dub of Dragon Ball Z Kai began airing in 2010. So even by that point, the Nokia ringtone wasn't the norm anymore. So this was already a dated reference when this dub was created. And by the way, in the original Japanese, King Kai simply imitates a generic sounding phone ringing noise. So there was absolutely no need to go with this super specific ringtone. And because they made this choice, kids today that watch the English dub of Dragon Ball Z Kai, well, I think there's a pretty good chance that some of them will be confused by this.
What's that? What, hello? It's mommy, guys!
Granted, I don't think this is as bad as Somebody Stop Me or the I've fallen and I can't get up reference, but it's still really unfortunate because this will forever be in the Dragon Ball Z Kai dub, and the more time passes, the weirder it will be. But like I said earlier, today I don't just want to focus on Dragon Ball. I also want to share with you two other more recent examples, because I want to show you that this problem of inserting something that immediately dates a dub is not unique to dubs from the 90s. So next up, let's take a look at a scene from the 2015 anime Prison School. By the way, in order to avoid copyright issues, I'm not just going to play the scene. I'm going to put up a screenshot and play the audio. If you actually want to see the scene for yourself, check out the link down in the description.
I was asked to run a couple errands, not that it's any of your business.
Whoa, pump the brakes, Arthur Fonzarelli. Have you got a stick up your ass? Or are you one of those dumbass Gamergate creep shows?
Now, if you were in the anime fandom in 2015, there's a pretty good chance that you remember this scene. That's because this scene sparked a huge controversy back when it aired. This scene is from episode 7 of Prison School. And by the way, the dub was produced by... yeah, the same Funimation that handled Dragon Ball. What a coincidence. But look, I'm not here to pick on Funimation. I do think they did some good work. It just happens that they also produced the Prison School dub. Anyway, let's get back on topic here. There's two things about this clip that I want to talk about. First is the mention of Arthur Fonzarelli. Second is the mention of Gamergate. And let's begin with the Gamergate reference because that's the thing that sparked the big controversy. For any of you who don't remember or just don't know, Gamergate refers to a major online controversy that exploded in 2014 and went on into 2015. As the name implies, it does involve video games, but unfortunately it also involves a very severe online harassment campaign. But I won't go any deeper into that because it's not really all that relevant to this video. What is relevant is the fact that this was a big deal back around 2014 to 2015. And so back in 2015, when the Prison School dub came out, there would have been quite a few people that would have gotten this reference. But it's been over 10 years since Gamergate. If you show this clip to a teen these days, I think there's a pretty good chance that they're not gonna know what the hell she's referring to. And to make things even worse, in the original Japanese, this female character doesn't say anything like this.
さっきからタメ口聞いてるけどさ、私2年だから、メールには敬語使いなさいよ。さっきからタメ口聞いてるけどさ、私2年だから、メールには敬語使いなさいよ。
All the female character is doing in the original Japanese is teasing the male character a bit because he's not using the proper amount of formal language with her. He's not showing her the respect he should because she is his senior. She's older than him. And in Japan, you're supposed to show respect to your senpai, your seniors. That's it. That's all there is to it. She doesn't have a particularly harsh tone. She doesn't use an intense insult. And she doesn't make any references to real world events. So inserting Gamergate here is problematic on more than one level. And not surprisingly, it resulted in a huge controversy. I'm not going to go any deeper into that, but what you should know is that controversy was big enough to get Funimation to change the dub. So this is the updated version.
Whoa, pump the brakes, Arthur Fonzarelli. Have you got a stick up your ass? Or is that your pathetic attempt at talking to an older girl?
Overall, the Prison School dub is really enjoyable. I haven't watched every single episode, but I have watched a few episodes, and I like a lot of the choices they made. It's just, well, this scene kind of overshadowed that entire dub, and that is really, really unfortunate. So yeah, the Gamergate thing was the huge thing that sparked the controversy, but there's another problem with this scene, the Arthur Fonzarelli reference. In case you're not aware who Arthur Fonzarelli is, let me explain. Arthur Fonzarelli, or as he's better known, the Fonz, is the most popular character to come out of the American sitcom Happy Days, which began airing in 1974 and ran until 1984. Remember, Prison School came out in 2015, and Prison School is a ridiculous, over-the-top, pervy comedy. It's targeted at teen boys and maybe men in their 20s. It's not targeted at people in their 40s and 50s who watched Happy Days. A Japanese high school girl in the 2010s shouldn't be making references to the Fonz and Gamergate. It just, it distracts you so much. And yeah, look, they did get rid of the Gamergate thing in that change in the updated version of the dub. That's great. But the Arthur Fonzarelli thing is still there. So that's an unfortunate thing for the dub. That's going to stay there. And I don't see a scenario where Prison School is going to be getting another dub anytime soon. But okay, enough Prison School. Let's move on to the next example. And the next example that I have for you comes from a game. So here, check out this clip.
It's not like I don't trust S to be faithful, but I'd better start upping my riz just to be sure.
Upping your what? Can we stay on topic, please?
This clip is from a Japanese RPG called Eiyu Densetsu Kuro no Kiseki 2 Crimson Sin. This game was released in 2022 in Japan, but it got an English language release in 2025 under the name The Legend of Heroes: Trails Through Daybreak II. So then what's the problem with this scene? Well, some of you probably guessed already, but the problem is that this character uses the word riz. Riz is a slang term that can be both a noun and a verb, and basically it just refers to somebody's ability to charm somebody.
Riz is just another word for having game.
It comes from the word charisma, and it rose to prominence in the early to mid 2020s, so it's a very recent term. So basically what the character in this clip is saying is that she feels like she needs to work on her attractiveness, on her charming abilities, so that this character that she's romantically interested in doesn't become romantically interested in somebody else. But is this accurate to the original Japanese? Yeah, actually it is. So this is my translation of the original Japanese.
I'm sure S won't fall for her, but I better work on my feminine charms, just in case.
Obviously, this is just one possible translation. We can always tweak this or switch out a word here or there, so don't get stuck on this exact wording. The point here is that my translation and what you heard in the original English clip basically mean the same exact thing. So in that regard, there's no problem with how this line was translated. However, the problem that I have with using riz here is the fact that riz is a really recent word. There is absolutely no guarantee that in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years, people will still be using riz. And if that's the case, this scene from this game will end up like every other example I've shown you in this video. And here's one more thing. In the original Japanese version of this scene, this character doesn't use extremely modern slang. They're speaking pretty standard Japanese. So the vibe that I get in the original Japanese and the vibe that I get in the English dub do not match up. And on top of that, because of this change, I think the way the male character reacts in each of these versions comes off as a little bit different. In the Japanese version, he's simply reacting to the fact that she says, oh, she needs to up her charms and work on her feminine allures. Whereas in the English version, it comes off more like he's reacting to the fact that she used riz. He wasn't expecting her to use that very peculiar word.
Upping your what? Can we stay on topic, please?
What the hell are you talking about? Don't derail the conversation.
Now, maybe this wasn't intentional, but to me, yeah, I get a slightly different vibe between these two versions. But that's a fairly small thing. Ultimately, like I said, the real problem here is the fact that they chose to go with the word riz. To me, it's too risky. It's too new. If riz was an established word and we know it will still be in use, for years to come, no problem. I think this is a really good translation. But because we don't know that, and in the original Japanese, she's not using super modern slang, I think they should have avoided using Riz. Look, the point of this video isn't to say localization sucks. I don't think that. I have incredible respect for localizers and translators, and I think that they often get attacked unjustly. But it's important to point out examples like what I showed you in today's video so that similar things don't keep happening. Most anime don't get second or third dubs, so let's get it right the first time. If the original Japanese is timeless, the English dub should also be timeless. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Let me know what you thought down below in the comments. And if you can think of other weird, baffling changes in English dubs of anime, drop them down below. I love learning about this stuff. Also, we finally hit 5,000 subscribers. Thank you so much, everybody. Seriously, you guys are so incredibly supportive. You always like and leave those comments, and of course, so many of you have subscribed. I'm truly grateful. Thank you so much. Like, yeah, I just experimented here on this channel. I thought like, oh, I'll try talking about JoJo and I'll try talking about Dragon Ball, and people started watching, and yeah, I'm a nerd about language. I love anime, and the fact that there's other people that appreciate this niche stuff that I talk about is really encouraging, and I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Now, don't worry, guys. I am going to keep making videos about Dragon Ball. I love Dragon Ball, and there are so many topics within the Dragon Ball, niche that I want to talk about that I haven't gotten to yet. So more videos are coming, but if you are interested in other anime language localization stuff, let me know down in the comments, because I may drop a video like this or slightly different ones every once in a while. I just want to know if people want more stuff like that. Just leave a comment, let me know. All right. So if you haven't already, subscribe, like, leave a comment, leave a heart. I don't know, do something. And let's get to 6,000 subscribers. All right, guys. See you in the next one.